Okay, go ahead, Becky.
Great. Well, thank you for joining today. So this is our half-hour session on the Healthy Start vouchers and the Rose vouchers in Southwark. So what we'll be covering in the session today is what are the Healthy Start vouchers, why they're important, who's eligible, and how you can apply for them, where you can use them, and what you can buy with them. We'll also cover a little bit about how you can promote the scheme or communicate the scheme to families. And then I'm going to hand over to Ariella, who's going to tell you a bit about the Rose vouchers as well in the borough. So in terms of what are the Healthy Start vouchers and why they're important, they're a national scheme. They're for eligible pregnant women and families with children under the age of 4, and they can be used towards healthy food and vitamins. The idea of the vouchers is that it's a nutritional safety net for those who are on low income. And the next few slides just very quickly go through just how important nutrition is during pregnancy and in the early years. So a lack of access to healthy food in pregnancy and early years can have negative health and social consequences. So a couple of examples include if there's a lack of nutrition during pregnancy, babies could be of a lower birth rate and more likely to lead to increased risk for things like diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, obesity when they're a bit older. It can put a lot of pressure on mums as well if they're experiencing food insecurity, particularly around breastfeeding. They may be trying to look at how they can get the most out of formula, whether that's watering it down. And this can cause, this additional pressure can lead to sort of postnatal or affect mother and infant bonding. And as I said, nutrition is really important in early years for babies' development and growth. So yeah, for children and young people, the vouchers continue to be really important. As I said, it can lead to a number of different health issues, and it can issues such as tooth decay and cavities as well. And as children get a bit older, it can affect their educational attainment, making it really difficult to concentrate in school if they're not eating properly, and that can impact on life chances as they get older. And socially as well, they may not feel comfortable inviting friends around or be involved in things that include spending money on food. So the Healthy Start vouchers and Rose vouchers are just a great way of supporting families to access nutrition and help with reducing food shopping costs as well. So we know in Southwark that food can be a struggle for a lot of people. 1 in 4 residents are experiencing food insecurity. And we know that during the pandemic, more families have struggled with food. And these could be families who've never accessed support around food before, so they may not know about the Healthy Start vouchers. This is a national scheme. It's free vouchers every week, yet about half of families in the borough who are eligible are not currently claiming or receiving the vouchers. So this is about £370,000 worth of free food within the borough that could be spent and currently isn't. So in terms of who is eligible, from a universal point, every pregnant woman under the age of 18 is eligible for Healthy Start vouchers. And I'll cover in a bit more detail in a minute what you can buy with the vouchers. Every pregnant woman or a family of children under the age of 4 are eligible for free vitamins in the borough. So in some boroughs it's means tested for the vitamins, but in Southwark and Lambeth it's not. So the vitamins are separate from the food voucher, so we won't go into as much detail on that. In terms of then means testing, so women, for those who are over the age of 18, pregnant women or families with children under the age of 4 are eligible if they receive income support, income-based job seekers allowance, income-related employment and support allowance, child tax credit or universal credit, and there's sort of limits on that income as well. And there's a lot more information on the national website about who is eligible and who's not. So in terms of how much the vouchers are worth, they are worth £4.25. This increased in April this year. It was £3.50, but the good news is from this month it's a little bit more. I'm just going to have to pause, I'm afraid, for 1 second, and then I'll be back.
Go ahead.
Great, thank you. So the vouchers are £4.25. This increased in April of this year. So for women who are pregnant, so from 10 weeks on in pregnancy, they get one voucher a week, so £4.25 a week. For the first year of a child, so from birth to 1 year old, you get 2 vouchers a week, so you actually get £8.50 a week. And then for children from the age of 1 to 4 years old, it's 1 voucher a week, so again £4.25. And at the bottom of the screen there's more information. There's a telephone number and the email address. So if families do have any issues, they can give a ring. And what's really important to remember is that whilst women may be eligible during pregnancy, they don't automatically enrol nationally the baby once the child's born. So it's really important that families ring up again once they've had the baby to get them registered so they can continue receiving the vouchers. So this is a copy of the voucher, just so you know what it looks like. And to give you an example of how valuable the vouchers can be, whilst £4.25 could sound quite a lot, it may not sound like it will have a big difference on family spending. So this is our Southwark family. This is mum with her twins who are 9 months old and her 3-year-old daughter. So for the twins, she gets 2 vouchers for each of them. And then for the 3-year-old, she'll get 1 voucher a week. So in total, it's 5 vouchers a week for the children, which is £21.25 to spend on food. And over the year, this is £1,105. So when you start to look at it like that, it can have a huge impact on food shopping bills and what food families are able to buy. So in terms of what you can spend the vouchers on, so the vouchers can be used for cow's milk or cow's milk based formulas that are suitable for the use from birth. So formulas, as I said, it has to be cow's milk. It can't be formula that's based on goat's milk or plant-based. And it can't be used on formulas that are for babies aged 6 months or older, so sort of follow-on formulas. It can also be used to just buy sort of cartons of milk. So you can buy plain cow's milk, whether that's whole milk, semi-skimmed or skimmed, but it must be pasteurized, sterilized, long life or ultra heat treated. Again, this can't be used for any plant-based milk or goat's milk, anything that's flavored or colored or milkshakes or anything like that. But if a family does have a young child and there are issues around dairy allergies, then it's worth getting to speak to their doctor, who may be able to help with prescribing either formula or milk. And then in terms of the food that you can buy with the vouchers, so plain, fresh and frozen fruit and vegetables, as well as pulses can be purchased. So again, pulses were added in earlier this year. So it can be fresh, dried or tinned pulses. And that's not just limited to lentils, beans or peas. And then for fruit and vegetables, they have to be plain, chopped, packaged or loose. They can be if they're tinned in natural juice or water. And you can also use frozen fruit or vegetables whole or chopped. And what you can't use them for is anything with pulses, fruit or vegetables that's been added to salts, sugars or any flavourings. It can't be used for dry fruit because they've got a much higher sugar content, or if the fruit or vegetables has been stored in juices because of the sugar, or if they've been sort of turned into anything like a smoothie. So where you can use the vouchers, so you can use them at large supermarket chains, whether that's at the main till, and self-checkouts will take them as well. Some corner shops, greengrocers and market stalls will take them, and some pharmacies you can use them for infant formula. On the national website, you can put in your postcode and it will tell you the nearest stores or places you can use the vouchers closest to you, so you don't have to travel far. At the moment, you have to use the voucher all in one go. You won't get any change. You don't have to use them the week you're sent them. You could save them up and spend them over a couple of weeks. There are plans for the vouchers to be digitalised nationally, so it would work more like a debit card, which would mean that families don't have to spend them all at once. But unfortunately, that's not the case at the moment. So we did a bit of mystery shopping to show you what you could get for £4.25, and these are from stores within the borough. So you can see the first basket's from Lidl, so this is about 25p over, but we've got a mixture of sort of fruit, vegetables and some salad. The basket from Aldi is just under the value of the voucher, but again you've got some fruit, vegetables and 4 pints of milk. And then Morrison's, which is pretty much the value of the vouchers, we've got again some salads, some fruit, vegetables, and we've got some milk as well. At the moment, Iceland are running, they're able to support the vouchers a bit further. So for every family who uses the vouchers during their shop, they can also get an extra £1 bag of frozen fruit, frozen vegetables or fruit. So it's really worth, if you know families are using the vouchers at a local Iceland store, encouraging them to pick up the extra bag as well. And I think that's running till August. So in terms of where else you could use the vouchers in the borough beyond sort of supermarkets and convenience stores, there is a store in East Street Market. We've got a picture there of the trader, and they accept the Healthy Start vouchers. So I think he's got a red canopy, and they have a number of Healthy Start banners up as well. You can't miss it. And again, that's a great way of making sure families get as much for their fruit and vegetables, so vouchers, as possible. And then families can also use the Healthy Start vouchers at Peckham Pantry. If you haven't seen it, they've got a new site on Peckham High Street. It's quite a big store. Families sign up as members, and then they can use the vouchers there. So for the £4.25 voucher, they can get 10 to 12 blue items of fruit, veg and milk, and that then has the retail value of £10 to £12. I've included the link. It's worth maybe giving them a call or dropping them an email before a family come along, just so they've got all the information about how to become a member when they arrive. So the application forms, it used to be that you had to have a health professional sign the form, and for some families this did create some delays or further complications for getting hold of a health visitor to get it, or a health professional to get it signed. But that's no longer the case. It's been about a year now you've not needed to get it signed. So some of the old forms are still in circulation, so if you see any or anyone comes to you asking for it to be signed, they don't need to worry about that bit. The forms are available online, but they have to be submitted by post. You can't send them off electronically at the moment. So there are ways you can download and print it for individuals, but you can also go online, and I've got the link in a few slides later on about how you can sort of bulk order the vouchers. So you've got a big supply in your office or centre to hand out. So yeah, just be mindful that not everyone will have access to a printer. If there are any issues with the forms, then there's an email address and telephone number as well. But sort of tips, if it's filled out in black ink, use capital letters and make sure people, when they fill it out, stay in the boxes. That can really help. We have known of families who've had applications rejected because it's not been filled out neatly enough. And be mindful that some families may not have an access to a printer, but they may need support filling out sort of English or with literacy levels as well. So everyone can help by raising awareness. So have a think about what you could do within your role. As I said at the beginning, we know there's a lot of vouchers in the borough that aren't being claimed at the moment and spent. So there's definitely more we can all do to help promote them, whether that's through social media, any newsletters you send out, any websites for your organisation. We've got some posters as well, which we can send around with the slides. If you're doing any sort of promotional events, could it be included? And just making it part of every contact. So telling pregnant women and young families about the forms, maybe, as I said, having a pile of forms that they can just take one and fill out, and starting to sort of link it into some of the other services that might be available as well. And if you are worried about or conscious of how to raise the subject, so some people you may not want them to feel offended because you've brought up money or anything like that, what we found is just take a real blanket approach and focus on the positives. So tell everyone about the vouchers and how they could benefit them without singling anyone out. So we did some focus groups just before the pandemic with families to understand how they found the vouchers and the benefits from them. And some things we heard were they can spend more freely. Things like strawberries don't have to be a treat. Lots of big supermarkets accept the vouchers. The milk can go a long way. It was really important during pregnancy as I wanted to be able to eat more fruit and vegetables. It gives your child a healthy start. And one family said they bought papaya, which they'd never tasted before. So you could sort of use this as reasons to talk to families about it. So you could say, a lot of residents use the vouchers and have found it really great for trying new food or really positive. And stress as well that the vouchers are an entitlement. So they're eligible. It would be a waste if they weren't claiming them. And they said this is money sort of going unspent that is free if they'd like it. The vouchers, I forgot to say, are sent every 4 weeks directly to the family's house. So they'll get the vouchers every month and then they can go shopping with them. Just a little bit of other services that might be useful for pregnant women or families you're working with who are eligible for Healthy Start vouchers. So the council's community hub, if you've not come across it, is for crisis support during the pandemic. So families are struggling to access food at the moment, particularly if they're self-isolating and they need help accessing a food hub. There's the email address. You can phone the council's number and choose option 3. And also if you go on the website and put in community hub, it'll all come up as well. The community hub can also help link families into the Southwark Emergency Support Scheme and the Hardship Fund, which can help with, again, provide assistance for those in crisis, particularly helping things like utility bills and rent. There's also the Evelina London's Children's Nutrition Dietetics team. They've got a Facebook page which has some really great videos they're regularly uploading on cooking and nutrition sessions with children. And they've got some great recipes too. They've got a recipe book, I think it's called Cook Together, that they produce with families in Southwark and Lambeth. And again, it's got some really good recipes that are affordable and healthy. And then, as I said at the beginning, Healthy Start vitamins in the borough are free for all pregnant women and children under 4. And the information is linked there as well. I'm going to pass over to Ariella.
Thanks, Becky. Hello, everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, I know quite a few of you here. I'm the Rose Vouchers Project and Volunteer Coordinator. So I run the Rose Vouchers Project in Southwark. So we're sort of working these hand in hand, hence this presentation. When you talk to families about Healthy Start vouchers in the way that Becky's been talking about, they may also benefit for the Rose vouchers. So I'm just going to take you through the criteria for those. I'll go through this slide and then the next one is a little bit more detailed. Again, you'll get the slides, so don't worry about scribbling it down. So basically, the Rose vouchers are for those families living in SE1, SE5 and SE17, those postcodes, because we're specifically focusing on areas that have been identified as having high levels of childhood obesity and trying to reduce those. So those are our areas. They can be used for free fruit and vegetables at stalls in East, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, at stalls at East Street Market, and some stalls in Peckham now as well. And we can identify which ones those are. We can say exactly where those ones are. And what we're really trying to do is encourage families who are entitled to go for both types of vouchers together, because then it's an amazing offer. My contact details are there if you want to get in touch with me. So we worked out that if families are eligible for Healthy Start vouchers and Rose vouchers, if they had just a 2-year-old, then between them they would get, with the 2 vouchers, they would get £221 of Healthy Start vouchers in a year with a 2-year-old and 208 Rose vouchers. So a total of £429 a year to spend on fruit and vegetables. As Becky was saying, a really good offer, especially with the 2 kinds of vouchers, and that there's the stall at East Street Market that takes both vouchers. all the stalls at East Street Market that sell fruit and vegetables should take the vouchers, I think, and they should be identifiable by signs saying that they do. Okay, so going on to the more detailed criteria, there are 3 key criteria. I've mentioned number 3 at the bottom there, which is the postcode areas, SE1, SE5 or SE17. The key thing is that there's a child, the age of the child or a pregnancy, so it needs to be a child under 5 years old. So this is slightly different to Healthy Start vouchers, which stop when the child is 4. With Rose vouchers, the child will continue to receive the vouchers once they're 4 until they start into reception in primary school. So basically, if they turn 4 and then it's the 31st of August, that's when the vouchers will stop, because then in the 1st of September, they will go into primary school. So the vouchers stop. The mum needs to be at least 10 weeks pregnant, and similar to Healthy Start vouchers, if they're under 18 and pregnant, then there's no financial criteria applied. Any under 18-year-old will receive the Rose vouchers. In terms of the financial circumstances, if they're already receiving the Healthy Start vouchers and they live in the right postcode area, then we know that they're eligible for the Rose vouchers, because we know that financially they're eligible and the child's age. Similarly, if they have families with an income of £16,200 a year or less, we just rounded it up a little bit from the Healthy Start criteria, they will qualify. So even if they're receiving other benefits, if their income is less than £16,200 a year, they are eligible for the Rose vouchers. And again, different to the Healthy Start vouchers, we are able to give Rose vouchers to refugees, asylum seekers, families who have no recourse to public funds. So that's a big difference, and that's fantastic for families that aren't eligible for Healthy Start vouchers, because they fit into that. They can have the Rose vouchers if they meet the age and if they meet the age criteria. I will say that what we're saying is that if families live in Southwark and they're NRPF, and they're willing to come and get the vouchers from one of the centres that distribute them and go to either East Street Market or Peckham to spend the vouchers, then we will waive the postcode criteria for NRPF families. So as I say, my contact details there, and they'll come out, the slides will come out to you if you want to ask me any questions about that, and I can also send you flyers as well. So yeah, I think that's me about the Rose vouchers. And do put any questions, type any questions. I think I said, you know, if we don't get to answer them here, then we will compile a fact sheet, FAQ sheet to send out to you. So put any questions you've got at all.
Great, thank you. And as Ariella said, for some families, it could mean they can double up on Healthy Start and the Rose vouchers, which can help even more in accessing fruit, vegetables, and reducing food shopping bills. So just very quickly, to get further information on the Healthy Start vouchers, there is the national website. I've included the link. On the website, they've got a number of different features that could be really helpful for working with families. So they've got an eligibility tester, so families can go on and check if they think they might be eligible. You can download and print application forms, so you can print them individually. But there's also a section where you can go on and order sort of larger quantities. I know I've got about 100 sitting under my desk when I'm allowed back in to the office. You can search for local retailers, and said there's a section where you can go on and put your postcode. You can find out about retailers. There's part of the website, you can also, retailers can sign up as well. So if you're operating or working with families near a local store that you think would actually be really good if they were on board and they're not currently signed up, then do encourage them to have a look at the website as well. And through this website, you can download some other resources as well, sort of promotional materials, whether that's the logos, some graphics, and sort of the pictures of children we've been using throughout the cartoon drawings. They're all the Healthy Start branding, so you can download that to use. And I think they've got resources in a few different languages as well, which could be helpful. And as I said, any issues, please do ring the helpline. They're able to let families know why their application may not have been accepted, or if there's been any delays, they can help with that as well.